stamp duty, $5.50, which is needed to complete your transaction. Please note, minors under 12 years old will be denied access into the St. George's Port. Your pass is valid for a single transaction. Loitering will not be permitted, and everyone is subjected to security checks. If your visitor pass is misplaced or lost, you will be charged $30. Please pay attention to all signage and directional instructions. The proceeding was a message from the management of the Grenada Ports Authority.
Broadcasting from the historical Parish Main Street, Surtees, to your home, vehicle, and office. Today's hit music on Real FM.
Wonderful Wednesday to all who are joining us on the program this morning, the conversation with the RGPF. And it's good to be in studios this morning because we have a wonderful lady, a nice corporal of police with us this morning, and she's always able to give us the type of information that is required for us to be able to educate ourselves as relates to that of the law. So I want to take this opportunity this morning to greet everyone, those in the diaspora, those here locally in Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. And I'm your host for this morning, Constable Callis of the Community Relations Department of the Eastern Division, Royal Grenada Police Force. And by extension, I want to also take this opportunity to wish a very dear friend of mine. I'm not sure she might be listening at this moment, but she's celebrating her birthday today. So WPC 441 Chichester, pleasant morning to you and happy birthday to you. May God continue to bless you on this wonderful day that your mom gave birth to you. And I do hope that you enjoy it to the fullest. And of course, I always like to ensure that persons who are listening, you encourage someone to join the program. And to persons also, it's good to encourage one, just to say something positive to them during the course of the day. Because that in itself can bring some form of positivity and encouragement to someone just to go through the day. Because we never know what burden someone might be carrying. And by just having to be able to just say something to them, can just spark that light, that can encourage them to go further during the day and have their mind change based on some negativity that they might have just been thinking of. So it's good to be in studios this morning. It's a conversation with the RGPF. It's Real 91.9. And we're here with a conversation with the RGPF and Miss Joseph, Corporal, Woman Detective Corporal 137. Joseph is with us in studios this morning on the conversation with the RGPF. Good morning to you, Miss Joseph. Good. And it's nice having you in studios. It's been a while you haven't been here with us in studios, but however, I know whenever that you're here that we are going to have a bumper time. We are going to be able to disseminate the information that is relevant for persons to be able to adhere to and be able to keep the law. Because I believe that as individuals, we all have the responsibility to maintain law and order and to ensure that the peace and tranquility of our legal trial and state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique is maintained. Yeah, right? So, of course, I know recently you have been awarded, I think that must have been a good feeling. That has been a great achievement.
Certainly. It's a very, very great achievement. I was awarded along with another W Corporal who is attached to your department, which is Community Relations Department, in that of Miss McLean, who was awarded the top Community Relations Officer for the region, and I was awarded the second place runner-up for top Caribbean crime fighter. That award has been, it has brought a lot of elation to me. It shows that there is reward for hard work. And it also shows that women are a force to be contended with within the RGPF. That we're here, we're breaking barriers, and we're bringing new things to light. In an environment where it is male-dominated, we are in a minority. We're showing that women can be counted on, and we will be there to get the work done. So yes, it was a very, 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 very good moment for me, and I do not attribute it to only my efforts, but to the efforts of the persons that are attached at the Criminal Investigations Department at the Grenville Police Station, as well as other members of staff at the Grenville Police Station who all worked tirelessly with me. Long hours, long days, tireless days, working long hours. Sometimes we go without pass, and we just keep working in all to keep the community safe, to make sure that the product that we produce is of the highest quality, and ensuring that persons feel safe at home at nights, and safe in the essence that that they can go about and do things, and are given that encouragement that the police is there looking out for them at all times.
In fact, I must add, collectively, as an individual and the way society goes these days, I have no prejudice in relates to how education-wise, male and female. I believe that if a female is excelling and she needs to go further, then she needs to be pushed to get there.
Exactly.
Likewise, the male, if he's showing the strive to get to succeed, he likewise should be pushed. So it's no longer about man had to be there or the woman, so it's all about achieving what is at the end of the day. So collectively, whatever organization you represent, whatever it is that you're involved with, that at the bottom of it, everybody will benefit because it's for the good of all. Right?
Exactly so.
So it is now 20 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock, and we're here in the conversation with the RGPF.
Yes.
And for sure, we are heading into or close to that of the carnival season. I know we would have had a lot of activities over the weekend within the Eastern Division. But pressing forward, I think one of the issues or concerns that I believe that, and I know that the RGPF has zero tolerance on, is that of offensive weapon. Yeah, so I think I want us to be able to look at a bit of that this morning, offensive weapon and the complications and consequences, how maybe that offense is being committed, and some of the penalties that can arise from that. So as we go forward, when we're looking at offensive weapon, in terms of the law, I think it's in relation to Section 5.1.
Right, that's the chargeable section.
The chargeable section, yeah. Can you highlight to us, to the general public, as it relates to offensive weapon?
Okay, well, this morning we were speaking out of Chapter 288 of the revised laws of Grenada, and it speaks to the Restriction of Offensive Weapons Act. Offensive weapons generally would speak of knives, cutlasses, or any sort of instrument that you adapt. As we go further into the program, I would speak to it. As it relates to the interpretation part, which is in Part 2, it explains or defines an offensive weapon. It means any article made or adapted for use for causing injury to the person or intended for that use by the person having it with him or her. So, and it also goes further to explain what a public place is. Includes all premises and places to which the public at the material time have or are permitted to have access, whether on payment or otherwise. So what the law is saying in general is that any article that you have, that you make or you adapt for the use of causing harm or injury to another person, or you have it on your person concealed in some way and it's intended for that use, then the person having it having it on him or her, it is deemed to be an offensive weapon. And that once you have it within the public domain, whether you have to pay an entry fee to get into that place, it deems a public place, and you can be charged under the law, which is Section 5.1, which you made reference to earlier on, as to having a offensive weapon in your possession. It says that it goes further, the law goes further, and it speaks that to an offensive weapons mean a knife having a blade that automatically opens by the application of pressure to a button or spring or some other device that is attached to that same handle of the knife. So in general, we're talking about the switch blades, those sort of knives that persons carry around on their persons. Those things are deemed to be offensive weapons according to the Act. It goes further and it speaks to a knife having a blade that is released from within its handle or sheath by the force or gravity or by the application of centrifugal force. And centrifugal force there means that action where you spin something and it gets to get it out. And when released, is locked in place by means of a button, spring, lever, or other devices. I have not really seen Those sort of articles here, we've not really confiscated it in my part of the island. I'm not entirely certain if any other police officers would have come into contact with it during their course of duty, but that too, if you have it in your possession, is deemed as an offensive weapon. If you have it at home, then it's by all means, then it's okay. But if you carry it on your person and you're out in the public domain with it and it is fit and intended for the purpose not that it is produced for, then it can be deemed to be an offensive weapon and you can be charged for that. And it goes on to the last section, which is part C, and it says a knife or a sharpened instrument built into or forming part of a stick, and which is released from the stick by the manipulation of a button, a spring, or a knob, or other device. So you see in the trend here that they're always speaking of some sort of manipulation. You have to press a button, some spring, something that is involved in getting that blade or whatever sharpened instrument ejected from the handle. That is deemed to be an offensive weapon. But we also deem that a cutlass is an offensive weapon once you have it within the public domain. And again, I say that once you have a cutlass with you, and you know the cutlass is fit and intended for use of farming and the like, and you have it in your waist, you've concealed it in your vehicles or some other method that you use of concealment, and you have it on your purpose, and the police will stop you and they will say to you, why do you have that in your possession? And you say, well, for protection. Protection against what? Or you say, well, I have this beef with this person and I'm making sure that I have something to protect myself. Once the police come across you and you give those type of explanations as it relates to having that, then it will be deemed to be an offensive weapon and you may or may not be charged for it. Section 5.1, it speaks of this. There's a level of discretion as it relates to the reasonable excuse. When you meet that police officer and you give an excuse as to why you have that in your possession and it's deemed reasonable, then the sort of action that may be taken at that time is to probably confiscate that item and have you returned for it at the police station at a later date, and it will be returned to you and as it is your property.
And in fact, just to add a bit in terms of what you said, in spite of the law did not specify or mention that of a cutlass, right? But just looking at the definition that you gave earlier on in regards to the interpretation of as an offensive weapon, and it being mention of means of any article made or adopted for the use of causing injury. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the important aspect of it here, because yes, as part of the law did not specify cutlass, yeah, but the definition of offensive weapon narrowed down to that of causing injury, and with that of the whole intention as to why you have it in your possession. In your possession.
So things like the screwdrivers, we have those things that people commonly call the jukers. They would file down some really sharpened instruments, long instruments, and you have them in your possession. All those things, once found on you, that they're deemed to be offensive weapons and can be confiscated or you can be charged for it.
Yeah. Because we know this is generally a practice that person really gives, and they, as you say, they tend to say they're going to do farming or they tend to do this, and we as officers have the responsibility to be able to come to the conclusion that, hey, what is your intent? Do we accept that excuse that you're giving? And I like how you put it, is that if in our judgment we believe that, hey, we're not getting the whole truth from you, then we can take some form of decisive action, whether or not we take it away from you and ask you to return for it on a later date.
Exactly.
Or you've been charged, as long as you does not give to the officer any reasonable excuse as to why you have it in your possession.
So discretion comes into play along those lines. So we do come across persons who probably not full-time farmers, but they're actively involved in farming. And when you search their vehicles, you come across the cutlass, you come across certain things in their vehicles, and they will say to you, hey, officer, I farm. I'm not doing full-time, but that's the reason why I have this in my vehicle. And then we say, okay, because of the purpose of our search this evening, or you heading to an activity, we do not want to leave that article or that cutlass in your possession. So we're going to provide you with the opportunity to leave it here with us, and you can return to the station. You give a name to that person, so that when they come back to the station, they can ask for their item and it may be returned to them.
Because I also believe that generally around the carnival season in particular, in like to the construction workers and the painters, those guys, they normally tend to have those
things in their bags.
Things in their bags, and they will say, well, I come from work, but sooner or later you see them in the van, jump in and see them. So we encourage you, as the couple have just said, that if you know you have to come through any of the activities, yes, you come, but and you don't need these objects to be in your possession at that point in time, it's okay to leave it on work.
And you can secure it somewhere else, out of the activity, away from where everything is happening. Secure it, because it can lead to security of yourself as well as somebody else. What if somebody is aware that you have those things in your bags and they take the opportunity to just dip in your bag and commit an offense, and may or may not cause the death of somebody or a serious injury to somebody else? So we must always bear in mind that it is not only you, but you're looking out for your fellow man. It's just like the drivers on the road. You say you're being a defensive driver because you're not driving for yourself, but you're looking out for the other drivers along the roadway.
Yeah.
So the offenses that are generated as a result of offensive weapons, we can charge the person who manufactures, that's the person who makes these items, to import it, and you bring these things in to sell to the general public, and it's intercepted at our ports or the other areas. They can be confiscated, and you may or may not be charged. Whether you sell it, you offer it for sale, you hire it out, you display it in any of your shop or your window or elsewhere, and you lend or you give it to another person, or you have it in your possession, you shall be guilty of the offense of being in possession of an offensive weapon. And on summary conviction meaning on the magistrate court level, in the case of your first time offense, your first time ever being charged for the offense of being in possession of an offensive weapon, you may or may not be liable to be imprisoned for 3 months at Her Majesty's prison and to a fine of $2,000. And in the case of a second offense, meaning that if you get charged a second time for that same offense or any subsequent offense, you can be imprisoned for 6 months and to a fine of $5,000. And it goes further to say that a police officer may seize, forfeit, and destroy an offensive weapon whenever found. So once you're found guilty, you're charged, the matter goes before the court, and you're found guilty, the police have the right to destroy that weapon. You would not be giving it back to have in your possession thereafter.
Right. I'm going to ask a question, as I say, just trying to be in the devil's advocate, as one would say. I haven't noticed firearms being mentioned in the law, based on what you're saying, for offensive weapon. What is it, can you see to the general public relates to that?
Well, it is an offensive weapon, but we don't charge for firearms under the Offensive Weapon Act. We have a Firearm Act. So if persons are found with such illegal firearms and thereof, you're charged for possession of a firearm, and that is of a higher degree than the offensive weapon. It carries a higher penalty at the magistrate's level. So once you're found with it, then you'll be charged likewise.
Right. Now we're into the whole aspect of the carnival season, and we're speaking of that of offensive weapon, but what does the law say in regards to the powers of the police, their rights to be able to see me walking down the road and maybe suspect me that I may have something we just come and just decided to search. What powers, what does the law gives the police to do such?
So Section 6 of that law says the power of the police to arrest without a warrant. So a police officer doesn't need to have a warrant that we need to show to you in order to carry out a search on you, if for whatever reason or for reasonable cause that we deem that you may be in possession, or you hiding something, concealing something on your person. So it says a police officer may, without warrant, arrest a person whom he or she has reasonable cause to believe is guilty of an offense under Section 5.1, and that's if the chargeable section, if the police officer is not satisfied as to that person's identity or place of residence, or has reasonable cause to believe that it is necessary to arrest him or her in order to prevent the commission by him or her of any offense in the course of committing which an offensive weapon might be used. So we can search you, and if we deem that you have an offensive weapon in your possession and it is for the purpose of committing an offense, then we can arrest you, we can charge you for that. based on it's when we say reasonable cause, you may be a police officer on duty and they might be looking at your actions, your mannerism, the way you move. Because when you have these things concealed on your person, it suddenly impedes the way that you would move naturally. You have a cutlass strapped in your waistline and it extends all the way down to your leg. So you would not be moving as as normal. Your natural movement, your gait, everything may change, and you may oftentimes see a bulge in that person's clothing, and it may cause us to want to carry out a search on you.
Become
to
suspicious.
see exactly your movements become suspicious, and we may approach and say to you, as a result of our observations, we've noticed that you're moving in a suspicious manner. I've observed a bulge on your side. I want to carry out a search on your person to see if you have anything. And during the course of that search, if you do have those things concealed on you, then you will be charged for the offense. And especially if, as a result of that, it is deemed that you have that in your possession for the purpose of committing another offense with that said offensive weapon that you have in your possession.
And in fact, that brings us to the point of public safety, because so many times persons, they seize the opportunity when there's a lot of persons around to make use of or to use that weapon that they may have that would further deem to be an offensive weapon. And that, I believe, can scare, that I believe can create some form of public terror.
Yes. There are times that we do charge for public terror in the face of how the offense would be, how the offense unfolded. Especially in large crowds of persons, and in carnival season, out of carnival season, when there are activities, you see people brandishing cutlasses, and of course it puts a fear into the persons who are there, because usually persons would run from the area. And in the event that when the person is brandishing that cutlass, it is not intentional to cause harm to that person, and by brandishing the firearm, they do cause harm to that person, another person. They are charged as well. So yes, it is a form of safe, like for safety precautions, that we don't want persons to have these things on their persons and brandishing it wherever, especially when there is a crowd of persons around.
And I think it is very important for persons to understand. Yes, it's carnival. We are here to enjoy. Persons go to those activities to enjoy themselves. And yet I'm still trying to understand the reason, the logical thinking behind it. Why would someone wait for that opportunity, to go into an activity or a fete or some show to target someone that they have beef with, and that in itself can bring across a very negative aspect, to that of the public and that of our very own Liquor Island, showing that level of violence. So I think it is important for persons to understand that it is important and relevant for them to come out to enjoy themselves and leave all the violence, leave all the weapons
knives and stuff at home. And we do want to encourage the public, the persons who are there and who are aware of these things happening. You may be in a position that you may see something before it is drawn to the attention of maybe a police officer who's on duty. And we've always have this mandate that if you see something, say something. You may just save a life. If you see someone acting in an inappropriate manner, in a suspicious manner, you hear conversations, you hear words being uttered to the effect that this is what is going to happen here tonight and this is my intention, that you draw it to the attention of a police officer. Or if there is no police officers working at the establishment at that point in time, then you draw it to the owner of the establishment's attention, so that he may take some form of precaution, soothe that situation before it escalates. And we've had quite a few incidences where persons are going to activities and you see it resulting in persons being injured, having these massive lacerations, these stab wounds. I believe it's way too much, and that persons need to be aware of the consequences to their actions. We know the consequences. Some of them are aware of the consequences, but it is just that this bitter memory in their minds that, for some reason they believe that it cannot be resolved. But the problems that exist, there is resolve. There is a way of resolving it. If you do not have that sort of mental fortitude to do it on your own, then there is no problem. There is no issue in reaching out to somebody else to say, well, listen, I have a problem with this gentleman. It's been a long time. It's bothering my mind, and it's probably pushing me in a different path that I don't want to take. Have someone sit with the both of you, speak with you with that aim of resolving that issue. I can never seem to forget this ad that used to be continuously running on television as a child growing up, when the former Prime Minister used to be saying that conflict resolution is a peaceful solution. And that's what we're pushing, because at the end of the day, it makes my job a lot easier than having to face these sort of situations where persons are fighting for their lives as a result of whatever injury that was caused from a fight, or an unsuspecting person coming upon them and cutting them, or some people even not being a part of the feud and having to nurse an injury. And I think that it's time that we learn to soothe situations, we learn to use our mouth, we learn to speak on issues and just clear the air. At the end of the day, you're paving the way for your younger brothers and sisters, or the generation that is upcoming. They need to see that there is another way that we can resolve issues, that it doesn't have to always lead to violence. It doesn't always have to be conflict. Let's putting our brains into use. We have a lot of education out there these days. We have the universities, we have the World Wide Web. You understand? A lot of information outside there that we can turn to help with whatever issues that we're facing.
And I believe that the plea is there. And one of the things that person should always adhere is having to respect yourself so that you'll be able to respect others.
Thank you.
And we see and we understand there's always a build-up. There are always friends who try to influence you to do this and to do that. Don't accept this from John James because he did this to you. And here it is, you build up the excitement because you want to take revenge on John James because he did this to you. And all the memories from your friends will start playing back, and they say, hey, listen, man, I have the opportunity. I know he's going to be there, so I'm going to wait. But respecting yourself and understanding and having to come to a conclusion that, hey, if I do this, what are the implications if I do this? Or if I don't do this, what are my chances here if I don't do this? And at the end of the day, and within our society, there are so many open avenues. As you rightly said, that you can just take the opportunity to speak out to someone. Let them know how you feel about that part. And I'm certain there can be some resolution. In fact, and you know what I love? Those things normally occur out of conflicts, right? But when you look at conflict management and you look at conflict resolution, I love the latter part of the resolution. You take the area and you get a solution.
Yes.
So there is solution to all of these issues, and violence is not the end result. No. Yeah, because when you do violence, it means therefore that you as the individual who is the accused will be hurt somewhere or the other. Then you have the victim who is also going to be hurt, but it does not stop there. It means that both families on either side will be hurting. Right? So. And then if we do not have that control, then it means that it can spread beyond not just family, but friends now and go into the community. And that in itself can create a disaster and bring about some form of discord within the very own community.
And communities against communities and all these things. We see these things and them rearing their ugly heads. So I want you to bear in mind that we're not only encouraging it for the carnival season, but for the carnival season and beyond, that you get into the trend, you get into the mindset that you don't carry around these offensive weapons on your person. Because instead of being charged with maybe being in possession of that, you may be charged for a bigger offense that carries a greater penalty, and that will be hanging over your head for the future, for years to come. A lot of persons are requiring police records, certificate of character these days for you when you're applying for a job, and it does not look good. And I don't think that any employer wants to employ somebody that has been arrested for an offense like possession of an offensive weapon, grievous harm, causing harm, wounding. It shows that you're a person that has a temperament, or you have an anger issue, and that you can't be trusted. Because we always have to look to the future, not only at the present time. You have to look ahead as to what your actions now may cause to happen later on. So just to speak on the section.
You don't want to be in the position to say, I didn't intend to.
Right. And the section says, which is section 5.1, and it says the prohibition on the possession of offensive weapon without lawful authority or reasonable excuse in a public place. So no lawful authority to carry whatever weapon that you have on your possession. And added to that, you have no reasonable excuse as to why you have it in your possession. So it says, whoever without lawful authority or reasonable excuse, the proof whereof shall lie on him or her, meaning that you would have to say, or you would have to prove to the court, is in possession in any public place of an offensive weapon, shall be guilty of an offense and liable on summary conviction, again, that is at the magistrate court level, to imprisonment for 6 months. So you stand a chance of being in prison for 6 months and a fine of $750. So it goes hand in hand. And the court convicting him or her may make an order for the forfeiture or disposal of the weapon in respect of which the offense was committed. It speaks to section 5.2 goes on. It says, notwithstanding subsection 1, where a person having a possession in a public place a firearm, which he or she is licensed to possess. So they're speaking of the persons who are licensed firearm holders, and they're permitted to carry it in a public place. Under part 4, which speaks to the Firearms Act there, chapter 105, you shall be deemed to have lawful authority for the purposes of that section. So that means that you would have lawful authority to have it in your person to carry it within a public place. But what we want you to keep in mind is that when we have these activities where you have to enter into a venue, that they're not allowed, that you would have to find a suitable place, maybe at home in your safe locked away, or you can always drop it off at the nearest police station for safekeeping until you return and you take it and you go home. But as it relates to carrying a firearm, an officer may be unsuspecting, they do not know you are a licensed firearm holder, and they notice a bulge or something on your person and they pull you over, they speak to you, they carry out a search and it is found in your possession, and you explain that you're a licensed firearm holder, you would have to present that certificate that gives you the lawful authority to having that weapon in your possession and your person at that time. And once you checked out and you deemed to be clear, then everything is okay. So it does speak further as relates to persons who are licensed firearm holders.
Right. Any other final thing you want to say before we just dive into a different aspect of the program a little bit, in the relates to firearms or offensive weapons for the upcoming season?
Well, the usual safety tips do apply. We've been urging persons, and there are a number of radio programs that has been on and will continue as the carnival season gets closer to keep persons in check, tell you the do's and don'ts, what's accepted and what's not. And we continue to make a plea to the general public that the aerosol cans are not permitted in the activities like the Soca Monarch and so forth. We did see a few of them at the semi-finals. For the finals in itself, we know there are quite a few songs that are calling for fire and to light up the area and stuff like that. We're appealing to the artists themselves that they come up with some new innovative ideas as to how they can get that sort of effect that they want from the crowd in terms of their representation to their songs. You would not be allowed into venues with glass bottle drinks. If you have a drink and you want to carry it into the venue, you're asked to pour it into a plastic container. No glass bottles will be allowed. Again, no firearms, no offensive weapons. Once found on your person, you will be charged for same. We will continue to appeal to persons to ensure that they secure their vehicles, secure your homes, make checks, make sure that, or ensure that when you leave your children home, they're left in the care of responsible persons, responsible adults, persons that can make sound decisions as it relates to their welfare and the welfare of your household. We're encouraging the persons wear minimal jewelry as well when they're going out into these places where we expect this large volume of persons to be there, which will reduce the opportunity for persons to perpetrate crimes such as the stealings and so forth. What else? We're extending, we're generally asking for persons to be cooperative with the police officers who are conducting duties. Sometimes the instructions or I don't want to say the instructions, measures. but the things that are put in place so that we ensure that the things, the activities flow smoothly. that you follow with the guidelines of that day. That if police say, ma'am, you're not allowed to park here, no parking in this area, you park down at the bottom side. So please follow the designated parking areas for the safety of your vehicles, because once we have designated parking area, that means that there will be police officers there patrolling the areas. Do not park out of the designated areas and park your vehicles in dark, lonely places. You give persons the opportunity to break into your vehicles, steal your valuable items. So generally, that's about it. If you wish to add any more points to that, but off the top of my head, that is what I came up with at this point.
What is important for persons to understand? Every individual who wish to attend any of the functions or activities, that they too have a personal responsibility.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not just about I'm going there and I'm going to be a standby or what we say, you're going to be looking at the show, but you have a personal responsibility in regards to safety. And what I always say is that if you as an individual understands your purpose in terms of safety, then the job for the officer becomes a lot easier.
Very much so.
Yeah. So it means that you as an individual and the officer can work now hand in hand for one common purpose, and that is to ensure that public safety is of importance.
Exactly.
So it doesn't just take one hand, as the people say, to clap. It takes both hands to clap. So going forward into the season, I want to encourage, that persons take it at heart that public safety is of importance. And if you hear something, feel free to say something. Don't wait until the incident occur and then you start saying, if I did say this, but I saw that was coming. No, let's take that bold step and to be able to say, hey, listen, officer, look, I see these two individuals down here in a brawl or in a high talk, and it might lead to something. Yeah, take that opportunity. You might not be close to the station, but use your phone, dial 911, make that connection. Report that matter so that officers can respond to those incidences soonest, because we want to be able to ensure that the tranquility of our safe Grenada is maintained. Again, parents, likewise, you too have that responsibility. Don't sit at home and have your children going out to functions, especially those that are strictly underage.
Right. We see a lot of that happening these
days. A lot of those things, and that can also lead to a lot of the sexual crimes that somewhat plagues our nation even at this stage. So it's very important for parents to let's be able to have dialogue. Let's be able to have conversations with our children. Set boundaries. And I remember saying a couple of weeks back on a program is that no, it's not the time to negotiate with children when it comes to carnival. No. You understand? No time to negotiate, because I can't understand why you as a parent should be home. Your 12, 13-year-old is outside. Alone. Then you have a whole breach of security, you have a whole breach of supervision taking place. And you expect your child to come home at 8 o'clock.
At a particular time.
Yeah, and that child doesn't get home at 8 o'clock, 12, 1 o'clock. Then who is going to be held responsible? Right. You as a parent are going to be held responsible. So take that responsibility. Or not like if you're with your child in the show, in some, let's say, carnival frolic or something that is engaged for children.
Yeah, especially designed for children, right.
Yeah, and you look at the time and say, well, look, it's 7:30, time for us to go home. And the child is saying to you, no, mommy, no, daddy, no, auntie, I ain't ready to go home yet. Who's in charge?
Right.
Yeah. So it is important. That's why I say no negotiations. You know what I'm saying? Time is set, and it's time for us to go as a family. It's time for us to get back home. Let's do that.
Right.
And so forth. And even if your child needs to leave your presence at any time, I also believe it is important to give them a time to come back to you.
Right.
Because that in itself give you a greater level of control, and they know that mommy or daddy and is expecting to return. At that time.
And you also need to keep them in view. I mean, we're not plagued with the issue where persons kidnap children or anything like that, but You never can know when something can happen. You can stand at a certain location and map out a route for your child to get to a bathroom. And you can stand there and say, well, pass this way, go over there. And so you keep that child within your view as much as possible. And it doesn't hurt to walk that child to the washroom areas. Not so long ago, I read something on Facebook where a parent said that she decided to follow her child into a washroom. And inside there was a man who was inside there lurking, waiting for the opportunity for a child to come into that washroom on their own so that he could get the opportunity to do what it is that he wanted to do. So we must always be mindful of the things that can happen once it is not within our view or once we don't have full control over what happens. So because as you say, it starts from the home. It starts from the boundaries that are set, the rules that are set, and encouraging your children to always keep in line with those things that you set for them. And as far as explaining to them why you are doing so, because we are taught that these children these days, they need a lot of explanation. They ask you why,
everything,
why.
Everything.
So always be prepared to have conversations, explain to them why it is that you're doing what you're doing, and that they can see the benefits of it when they're older.
Right. So it's just a few minutes to 10. It's like 5 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're almost to the conclusion of the program with the RGPF for this wonderful Wednesday. Here at the Real 91.9. And so it's always good to have you, Ms. Joseph, in studios with us.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
And we look forward to continue having you or the department here with us with the conversation. The RGPF, but going forward, I just want to remark that and to encourage persons, please leave the weapons at home. We don't want you to hurt anybody, and by extension, that other person had to come looking for you because they want to take revenge. We don't want that. We want to be able to have unity. We want to be able to have love. Through that entire season, and one of the things that happens, you have a lot of persons coming out from the diaspora coming in to be able to enjoy, to have fun, to participate, and just by an individual having to take up an object, let's say a bottle or something, and throw at a crowd behind someone, but it did not hit that individual, but it happened to strike that person who came from abroad, then what volume does that speaks of like a pure Grenada?
Yeah. But as you said on that topic there, when persons apply for permission to have activities, attached to the permission is a list of guidelines that they must follow, and one of the guidelines is that they're not to sell drinks in glass bottles. Once it is found that you're doing so, you're liable to, on receipt of being shut down. Your activity can be shut down once you're found to be breaking one or more two of the guidelines that are attached to that permission. It also relates to the level of music, the tone, like how loud the music is being played and all those things. So for the as I said again, we're asking for the cooperation, and cooperation means that you follow these guidelines that are placed. And we're appealing to the vendors who will be lining the streets for the carnival season, the Rainbow City Festival, which is fast approaching, the carnival, the Juve morning. Buy your plastic glasses, have them at hand, pour your drinks out. That way you ensure that you get all your bottles back for when you go back to that distributor, that place that you purchase your drinks, so you can get whatever compensation for returning all your bottles. No bottles are to be allowed to be leaving your bars. And once we find that you're selling drinks in bottles to the general public, then I cannot say what action may or may not be taken from you, but I could certainly tell you that you may be stopped from selling or vending. So please bear in mind that we're trying to keep the activities as clean as possible, have it run as smooth as possible, incident-free, violent-free. And people always clamor for extra time at activities, but you can't give extra time at activities when you have all sorts of little pieces of upsurges in violence happening, because we have to look at not only your pockets, but the safety of the persons at large. And so please bear that in mind and try to act as responsible as possible.
And in fact, I believe that if any outrageous activity were to happen in function where the public is going to be at risk, I am certain that the police would be given some level of instructions to ensure that these activities can shut down. because you're looking at safety. You doesn't want anything to further escalate, you know, to where more persons can get injured. So promoters, you have a responsibility to ensure that you speak to the persons, the DJs, so that they would not promote violence, but promote safety. You know, so I want to see at this junction as we go forward that go out and have fun, clean fun, and ensure that we do all have a safe carnival season for the period 2023. So thank you very much, Couple Josie, for being with us in studio this morning and the conversation with the RGPF. I'm your host, Constable Callis, and we're going to be here next week, God's willing, Wednesday again, with a different program, conversation with a different person, the conversation with the RGPF. Thank you, and do have a blessed day.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome.